This is the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast. This podcast provides tips, tools, and inspiring stories for creating clarity around your calling, opening your heart to infinite possibilities, and enabling you to have the greatest impact on the world. I'm Crosson-Hill, a certified spiritual life coach, meditation teacher, human design specialist, and founder of 𝗞𝗲𝗆. And most recently, I've joined the faculty at 𝗏𝗏 Academy Coach Training. It's my mission to teach and guide others in living a spiritually aligned life that answers their unique calling. Welcome, and thanks for listening. Today on the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast, I want to talk about what inspired me to become a spiritual life coach. And I think that it's important that I explain that because in many ways it ties back to this idea of why answering your unique calling matters. So this question, what inspired me to be a spiritual life coach, is kind of on my mind. And the other day someone direct messaged me and asked me that question. And of course the person that asked me the question was a business coach looking to establish a connection and sell me services. So the circumstances were a little spammy, but it was still an important question. It was something that I was thinking about, and I decided that I really wanted to talk about it today because I think it's really important. So what inspired me to be a life coach goes way back in my spiritual history, probably around 2001 or so. So as an out gay man, I found that the queer community that I was participating in wasn't really what I wanted in a community. It didn't have the level of closeness, of intimacy, of support that the community had when I originally came out in the early 80s. And of course, at that time, it was during the peak of the AIDS epidemic, and I came out into a very different community with a lot less judgment and division. So I was unhappy with the way the world worked, which is often how people end up answering their unique calling, as they see something wrong in the world and decide that they're going to be the person who changes it. So I've done a lot of work with gay and bi men in running spiritual festivals and retreats to try to move this. And around 2016, we in the United States, we had a very divisive political cycle at that time. And I just was feeling a lot of division, a lot of anger in the world around me. And I was still really struggling with how the gay community was showing up. And what I realized was that if the community was going to change, if the world was going to change, I had to change first. So I realized that I wasn't always showing up as my best version of myself and my most authentic version of myself. And so I set about to start working first on myself, making the changes that I needed to make so that when I found the kinship, the community, the support that I was longing for, that I was ready to receive it. So I wasn't real sure where to start, and I decided to become a yoga teacher. I had done yoga for quite a while, and I had a meditation practice at the time, and decided that I could start to do some of my work by helping guide other people in developing a practice as well. It was also important to me because I had grown up as a very sensitive child and was often bullied. And so I had kind of closed off myself somewhat from my own emotions and from my own body and body wisdom. And so yoga was the start of my process of reconnecting with my essence. So I took a yoga teacher training, and after I finished the yoga teacher training, I started teaching at a studio in Yellow Springs, Ohio, which, if you're familiar with Ohio, Yellow Springs is kind of famous for being somewhat liberal, hippie town. And to me, it feels very much like the Sedona of Ohio. There's a very strong spiritual vibe there. And the particular studio that I taught at was also doing a lot of other spirituality pursuits. So they offered astrology, tarot readings, workshops on various topics. And as I started to teach yoga there, I also was reading tarot and teaching other workshops. And one of the things that I noticed was in my tarot readings, it just wasn't very satisfying. People came to me looking for quick fixes. They wanted to be told what to do and to go do it and have everything resolve on its own without really putting in any work. And it reminded me of the beginning of my journey when I realized that I wasn't showing up as my best self. I wasn't putting in the work. So something was still missing there, even though I was closer to answering my unique calling. I was starting to teach, which that definitely is part of my calling and part of my mission. It just wasn't quite there yet. Something was still missing. And so someone mentioned life coaching to me. I think it was actually a friend mentioned to me, you'd be a great coach. I want you to be my coach sometime. And I was like, I'm not a coach. I don't know anything about coaching, but it sparked something in me. I started like thinking about that more and more. And it eventually led to me researching coaching as a profession and training programs for spiritual life coaching. And that set me on my road to being a life coach. And underneath it all, though, was this deep dissatisfaction with how the world worked and how other people were showing up in the world. I wanted to see a world that was kinder, more gentle, and more spiritually focused. And I didn't feel that from the division and the anger that was swirling around me at the time, to be honest, that we could evolve as a species, that we could evolve spiritually, that we could learn the lessons that we had come here to learn. And I realized that if that was going to change, it had to start with one person. Like it has to happen a person at a time. One person and then another person and then another person and then another person. And before you know it, there's a community of people who are operating at a higher vibration, operating from their most authentic and true and best selves. And that becomes contagious. And before you know it, the world has changed because the people have changed one at a time. And so my pursuit of becoming a life coach was deeply tied to, one, making that internal change myself, working through my own inner process to heal the things within myself that were holding me back from being my most authentic and best self. And two, I wanted to be an agent of change. I wanted to help other people find how to live their most authentic, true, and best self so that we could start to see that cascade effect of more and more people doing the work, showing up as their best self, and eventually changing the world through changing themselves. And so to me, life coaching, in particular, spiritual life coaching, seemed to be the way to really accelerate that cascade effect. And so, I remember from chemistry, the word catalyst, and a catalyst is simply something that in a reaction, you add a catalyst and it speeds up the reaction. So if you want to see the world change faster, you need to find the catalysts. And as a spiritual life coach, I get the very unique opportunity to create catalysts for world change. So when I work with my clients, every one of my clients who does this work, at the end of our work together, they have stepped into a higher vibration. They are showing up as a better version of themselves, and other people see that and desire that as well, and they become that catalyst for change. And I just think that that's why answering my unique calling is so tightly connected to what first inspired me to become a spiritual life coach, because it's a natural progression of the work that I began 20 years ago, trying to create more meaningful community for gay and bi men, and now to being a spiritual life coach and teacher, and having this podcast and talking about what it means to answer your unique calling, what it means to step into the most authentic, best version of yourself and do the work that Spirit sent you here to do. And when you have a deep desire for things to be better, you feel automatically drawn to your unique calling. And you don't always know what that's going to look like or how you're going to do it. You just know that things need to change. that you're not happy with the status quo, and that you can be part of that change. And that's all it really takes. And when you have that drive, that burning passion inside you to really see a changed world, your unique calling just unfolds naturally from that. You have this desire and drive towards a mission that is higher than yourself, and you have a need to show up as your best, most authentic self. And that leads to answering your unique calling, starting to be a role model for other people. Maybe your calling involves helping other people, whether you're a healer, a tarot reader, an astrologer, a spiritual life coach like myself, a musician, an artist. All of these things are moving us all collectively towards a better world. And that's what Answer Your Unique Calling is really about. Not only do you make internal change to be your best self and operate at a higher vibration, but you inspire others to want to do the same. And it's really what this is all about, of answering your unique calling, is doing the work that you came here to do. And no matter what that work is, no matter what it looks like for you personally, collectively, it's all about moving us all vibrationally forward. It's all about raising the vibe of humanity as a whole. And and you're just playing one part of that. And it's an important part. Remember, your unique calling is unique because it is something that only you can do. You have been given the gifts, strengths, opportunities, experience, everything needed to do what you came here to do, and no one else can do it. It has to be you. So I invite you to also join me as being a catalyst for change, answering your unique calling to make the world a better place by showing up as your most authentic, best self and inspiring others to do the same. You can reach me on the web at 𝗞𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗹𝗶_H_Inanna.com. That's 𝗞𝗲𝗏 INANNA.com. I'm also on Instagram. Handle is 𝗞𝗲𝗏. And on Facebook, I have a page under 𝗞𝗲𝗏. Thank you for listening today, and I hope that this inspired you to really think about what your unique calling means and what your desire to change the world brings to you, and how you might show up as your most authentic, highest vibe, and best self. Bright blessings. Are you a soulpreneur? You've answered your unique calling by starting a spirituality-based business. Maybe now you find yourself overwhelmed. There's so much to do for your business and so many things you've never done before that you need to learn how to do. With an ever-growing to-do list, you may feel like you'll never get everything done. Decisions become complicated and you may feel like you need to work all the time. Even worse, our old friend imposter syndrome pokes his head up. You struggle with your pricing, and every business coach on the planet wants to sell you a marketing system. I've been there. It's why I've created my Soulpreneur Energetic Success Program. This coaching program helps you use your human design, storytelling, ritual, and transformational coaching to build your soulpreneur business. Discover how to make the best decisions for you, how to find the most aligned action to take, overcome imposter syndrome, confidently charge what your services are worth, and move forward with ease and grace. Visit my website, www.𝗞𝗲𝗏_Inanna.com, to schedule a free intro call.